Hey guys, on this episode of Crap Vegas, we're talking about Vegas bucket lists, Zorkfest 2023, feature bets on the craps table, increasing table minimums, and so much more.
Welcome to the Crap Vegas podcast.
Vegas, here we come.
Vegas!
Here are your hosts, Chris and Josh.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 40 of the Crap Vegas podcast. I am Chris. He's Josh. Josh, what's going on?
40 sounds like a big number.
It's a round
I feel like
number.
it is a round number. I feel like we've accomplished something. We're 40 episodes in.
Yeah.
It's very
It
exciting.
means we've been doing this for a little while. I feel like we got our feet under us at this point. Making a few changes here or there people are noticing.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting. We're seeing the show mature and progress and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah. I
Anyway,
think it's
congratulations to us.
great. Yes. If nobody else tells us good job, we're going to tell ourselves, great job, guys.
Exactly. 40 sounds good. But anyway, other than that, getting settled back into the routine now that Zorkfest is over and don't have any trips lined up for a little while. So just getting, back into the fall routine, getting ready for Thanksgiving and Halloween and all the usual kid stuff that goes along with that. Planning Christmas vacations and stuff.
We'll talk about future trips a little later like we always do. I really said that I wasn't going to take any more this year. I got too much on the calendar. And then Delta just kind of kicked me in the ass and said, hey, you're only $4,500 away from hitting diamond status for this year. And I didn't realize I was that far away. So now I got to take a couple trips between now and the end of the year because I need to lock in my status for the next few years. And if I'm going to do that, I feel like I kind of have to fly to Vegas. Isn't that the only place you can go?
If any of our listeners actually thought that you wouldn't take a trip between, today is October 24th when we're recording this and the end of the year to Vegas, then please send me an email.
Yeah, 70 days. That is a long time. So
I
yeah,
don't
I'm
exactly
working on
blame Delta.
no, it's probably not Delta's fault, but I'll tell you what, it was the impetus to make sure that I find something in the near future to make this work.
The bad news is, and again, we'll talk about our future trips, but it doesn't look like Chris and I are going to be able to coordinate trips before the end of the year. So, but the good news is if you really want to play with one of us, you might get a shot at multiple chances to find one of us.
Ooh, and we actually have a question this week, Josh, related to that topic.
We do.
I don't know how that came up, but it did. Okay. So if you want to get in touch with us, you can reach us via email. That is podcast@crapvegas.com. You can reach us on Facebook. That's crapvegas.com/Facebook. You can leave us a voicemail. That's crapvegas.com/voicemail. Or the easiest way is always on Twitter.
X.
Good, you got it this time. That's
I was
at
ready.
It's at Vegas Duffy. I'm at Small Whale 13, or the show page is at Crap Vegas. Okay, so previous episode feedback, Josh. We got a DM from Charlie. Charlie said, loved your discussion for Vegas newbies. You guys made some good points. Question about your choice in shows for a new visitor, though. I definitely agree a show for the first trip is a must, but say you had to rule out all Cirque shows and all Spiegelworld shows, what would be your go-to? Josh, what would you choose if Cirque and Spiegelworld were off the table?
Well, I see your choice, so I'm not going to steal your thunder. I'll let you have that. I was thinking about that when I read your question, Charlie. Thanks for that. If people are it's the right group of people. I enjoyed Zombie Burlesque that much that I might say that's a really good show. As we said, it's not full nudity or that kind of thing. It's not even topless. So it's not quite as off color as some, but it's a really fun show. And for a first show, if you're not going to go see the ones you mentioned, I might suggest that. What do you think about that choice, Chris?
Yeah, not a bad choice. I like to think of Zombie Burlesque as like just the tip, just a little bit, but not the whole thing.
Right.
But that being said, my choice for a show would be Penn and Teller. I think it's classic Vegas. It's a magic show. It's in a really nice theater. It's interactive with the fans. The price point isn't terrible. It's kind of a win across the board. It's safe for almost any age. It's
really
just a
is.
great recommendation for people.
Yeah, and I saw Chris thought of that, and I second that wholeheartedly. I think Penn and Teller is a fantastic first show to see in Vegas if you're not going to see the others.
So thank you, Charlie. Appreciate it. Hope that helps a little bit. We received an email from listener Allison. Allison said, Chris and Josh, you guys spoke last episode how you aren't really fazed by larger players joining you at the table. I wish I had your courage, but it also made me think about that question from the opposite perspective. When you guys are playing at cheaper properties than Wynn or Aria, do players get uncomfortable or upset to have you all at the table playing at those levels? Is it weird going from being smaller players at Wynn to huge players at a place like Rio? Thanks, Allison.
Thanks, Allison. I think, Chris, I don't know what you think, but I think players actually do. I mean, we feel it in reverse. I think players, they'll if they seven out real quick, for example, they'll look at us and say, I'm sorry. That happens sometimes. They see us with bigger bets, and there is a reverence, for lack of a better word. It always makes me feel a little uncomfortable because it's like, you don't have to apologize to me. You're losing money too, and seven can happen for many of us. We can all do that. So, but I get that in reverse for sure.
No, same thing here, especially if I'm playing locally, because locally it's typically a $10 table, if not a $5 table. And so when I'm playing $150 6 and 8 right from the start, or
Right.
usually nowadays, if I'm playing 600 across and these guys are playing like $25 in action, yeah, it puts you in kind of a weird mindset compared to them. Josh, here's the better question is, do you feel more awkward being the big player at a small table or the small player at a big table? Because we've had both. We've played at $100 tables where we're playing our bare minimum we can play. And we've also played at $10 tables where we're destroying anybody else at the table financially when it comes to that.
I think I'm with Allison in the sense that I feel more awkward when I'm the smallest one and there are huge players out there.
I do
So,
too.
using the Win example, if somebody's playing $5,000 on the pass line, that makes me feel more awkward than if I'm playing $50 on the pass line and somebody's playing 15. That doesn't make me feel too goofy.
Yeah, I think I'm the same way. And we've played together and talked about it on this show before when we had people buy in for $100,000. And when you're shooting, when somebody's got table maximum on 5 numbers, yeah, it can be slightly intimidating, even for us. It doesn't stop us from playing, but there is that level of guilt if you go like 0.7.
Right.
Or the last time we had this happen, it was a come better. We got a point established. He got up on 3 or 4 numbers and then it went out. And I'm like, oh man, I just cost him a lot of money.
Yeah, and
you can't let that phase you because you just as easily could have made him money. And when he goes to shoot, he may go 0.72. And it's all just economies of scale. What he lost is the same as you and I losing, a few $100s. And yeah, it's frustrating, but it's not the end of the world. And you just have to keep that in mind.
And hopefully, as we've said before, if you're gambling at that level, you can afford to gamble at that level. So it's just recreational gambling, hopefully.
Yeah. So thank you for that, Allison. We received a Facebook DM from Derek, said, hey guys, love the show. I have a health condition that precludes me from traveling right now, so I try to live vicariously through your trip reports. I was thinking about something the other day listening to your shows and curious to your response. I know you both like to play at empty tables, but do you guys prefer playing together or just solo? Just wondering. Thanks for everything, Derek. So Josh, I alluded to this before we got going here. That is an interesting question. I've never thought about it. Do you prefer playing with me or do you prefer playing by yourself?
Well, thanks, Derek. And I'm glad we give you some entertainment and some ability to live vicariously through us and through everybody's comments and things like that. That's fun. As for your question, I don't know if I can answer that. Chris,
because I'm on the other side.
We might have to talk offline. Yeah.
Send Josh a DM and he'll tell you the true answer.
No, I think that, and I hope this is true for Chris, but it's nice to have at least one other buddy to play craps with. And Chris and I are so similar in a lot of ways. It makes it a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And I think we really enjoy each other's company. That's part of why we like doing this and part of why we like going on trips together. At the same time, it's kind of fun to just, when you're by yourself, you are completely on your own timetable and budget pressures, whatever so if you decide, you're down there for 10 minutes and you don't like the crew or you don't like the feel of the dice, or if you're on the casino floor and whatever happens, you can leave and you don't have to explain it to anybody or ask anybody if they're okay with it or that kind of stuff. So there's an appeal there too.
I'm right there with you, Josh. I would say 90% of the time I'd prefer to play with you and just have a 2-person table. But there are 10% of those times that I would prefer to play by myself for many reasons. You hit some of them. I mean, sometimes it's just I want to have a conversation with the dealers at the table. And if there's 2 people, it's slightly harder to have the conversation because more things are happening. Sometimes it's just the pressure of playing with somebody else, or maybe you want to do something unique that you don't usually do, but it would mess it up for the other person. Like I know Josh and I typically play the same way. Maybe
Right.
if I wanted to try something completely different and be weird for a session, he wouldn't like that because he'd be missing out on
You wouldn't want to
something.
piss me off if you went
Yeah,
over to the
I mean,
don't or whatever, right?
And we've done that before where, Josh tried to play a different style than I played for a session, and it lasted like 10 minutes because there became, well, he hit this and I hit this. Well, maybe we really wanted to play that way, but we just couldn't do it in a setting together. So I'm not saying it's like ill will or anything. Josh and I get along about as well as two people possibly can. But that doesn't mean that there aren't times that I wouldn't love to play solo just for that reason.
And part of the reason I like the little longer trips that I tend to take is I get my Chris time, and then I get a little time on my own to do right, whatever it is. If it's gamble, it's gamble. If it's do a massage, then it's that. So it's, I like a little of that. For me, that's the perfect balance.
Yeah, makes sense to me. So thank you for those questions this week, guys. We really appreciate the feedback. So our patrons got a little bit of a head start on this one, but this week we wanted to talk about Vegas bucket list items. It's not going to be formal for me or written down or anything like that I keep, but I think everybody that comes to Vegas has a list of a few things that they'd love to do, but just haven't had the opportunity to do. And it's different for people like us, Josh, because we're there so damn much. I mean, we've taken hundreds of trips for the few trips that some other people may have taken, but you have a bucket list of items, don't you?
I definitely do. And yeah, even though we've been as often as we have, there's still some things. I was thinking about this question. There are still a lot of things that I think I'd like to do that. Not necessarily I'd like to do that before I die. It's not a true bucket list, but it's like this is a Vegas thing that I haven't done yet that I really should try.
Okay, so Josh, like I always do, I like to break things into like little subsections so I can have organized notes. And I started it off by saying restaurants. Are there any restaurants in Vegas that you just haven't had a chance to experience, but really want to get there sometime soon?
Well, one is one that we almost had before the cyber attack, which is John George.
Okay.
I hear just such wonderful things about that steakhouse that, Marilyn, a friend of ours that was at Zorkfest, was raving about it. Like everybody says that. I know you've been there and liked it a lot. So that's one that I haven't been to. Kind of along the same line, Barry's at Circa. Okay. I'd also like to give a try. I've heard kind of some mixed things about that. And in fact, I heard from our friend Eric at Zorkfest also that he was not so crazy about some aspects of it, particularly the loud music, which goes along with any DS property. That is pretty loud in that restaurant. But so for food wise, John George and Barry's are two for me. How about you?
Yeah, I love John George. It was really good. They have the best like sauces that they give you with the steak, Josh, on the side for free. It comes with a plate. It's like a sampler. So good.
I can't wait. January is calling.
Now, you said the loud music at a steakhouse. Have you been to STK?
I haven't. That's at Cosmo, right?
Yeah.
No, I've never been to it. I was thinking that's one that's on my list. I didn't actually think of it as we were making this. I would now that you mention it.
That's like a club combined with a steakhouse. Like they have a DJ, they're playing.
Oh, right up my alley.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that'd be right up, what you're looking for. They have a DJ, he's playing music that he's mixed and stuff. It's extremely loud. Having conversation can be difficult, but if you like the club scene combined with the steakhouse scene, it's perfect.
Chris, now that I'm looking at my list and thinking about our topics for this bucket list, our subtopics, as you said, I didn't have a club category. Do we need to add a club category?
Nope, we sure don't. Nope, not necessary at all.
You don't have excess on there or anything like that?
No, I got plenty of it from my room at Encore, and it ruined my stay, so I'm good now.
How about a day club? Have you got that on your list? Have you got Marquee Day Club or something?
I went to Dre's. I went to Dre's during the day one time. Won't make that mistake again. I didn't fit in very well.
There we go. All right. Any other restaurants for you?
Yeah, so I got two of them. I've heard from a bunch of people, places that I need to go that I haven't gone yet. I've been recommended a place called Grits Cafe more than once, and it's because they have what they call like a Kentucky plate meal. It's fried chicken, of course, because that in Kentucky,
sounds
that's
good.
all we eat is fried chicken, Even though, by the way, KFC is disgusting, and nobody in Kentucky actually likes KFC. But anyways, they have a fried chicken.
They could be
plate.
A sponsor, Chris. Don't alienate possible sponsors.
I'll turn that one down. So I've heard a lot about that. And the other one was a steakhouse, Josh, called Primal Steakhouse. I've heard about it from
I've heard about that.
It's off strip. It's not associated with a casino or anything, so it's not a place that I've had a chance to get to. So yeah, Primal Steakhouse, it's on my list, Josh. Haven't been there yet. Maybe one day soon.
You'd like to give it a try? Sure.
Yeah.
What about Love It? You didn't put Love It on your food list. That's not you're not driving to get to.
You know me. I don't usually have a rental car. I wouldn't take an Uber just to get over there. I guess maybe the balance of potential death with really good frozen custard, like that hasn't swung enough in the favor of the custard yet. But maybe as I get older and closer to death, Josh, I won't value life as much, and then I'll want to go there. So maybe it'll be on my bucket list in 40 years.
I thought you were going to say as you get older and like soft food.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah. Do they specialize also in like puddings and things like that? So, when I got my tooth out last week, that would have been helpful.
That would have been perfect, right?
Yeah, exactly. So wrong place, wrong time. But no, that's not on my list. But let's jump ahead to places and shows, Josh. Is there anything show or event wise, like the Pinball Hall of Fame or any of the museums downtown, is there anything like that you haven't done that you want to do?
So show wise, and this is serious, I would actually at some point like to see Carrot Top. Because I hear
we can make that happen.
Yeah, I hear that everybody that goes to see Carrot Top really loves him and thinks the show is just fantastic. So that's one that I haven't done yet that I think I would like to do. And a couple of the museums, I haven't been to the Mob Museum. I'd like to do that. I haven't been to the Neon Museum, and I'd like to do that. Those are three kind of events and shows for me. What have you got?
I got a couple things. One kind of event sporty sort of thing. I haven't seen a Vegas Knights game. And everybody says, it's amazing to attend. I've been to hockey games before. They're always fun. So I feel like that would be really exciting to do sometime.
Actually, that would be a lot of fun. Now that you mention it, I didn't even think of it. I would like to go to a Raiders game at Allegiant Stadium. I mean, I've been to Allegiant Stadium when I got invited by Wynn to go to the Academy of Country Music Awards. Insert sponsor clip here.
Humble brag, right? Yeah. Hashtag humble brag right there.
But I'd love to see a Raiders game too. But you're right, a Knights game would be fantastic.
Well, maybe we can do a Knights game and Carrot Top on our next trip together. We could do that.
That would be pretty awesome.
That'd be a busy day, but we could absolutely do it. The only thing else, I think I'd really like to see Jerry Seinfeld live. I'm a huge Seinfeld fan in general. And most things he's done, I've been a big fan of. And he's usually over at the Coliseum. So I feel like
at Caesars was what I was going to say. Yeah,
I feel like we could make that happen at some point too. So I'd put those two things on my list.
One other thing I thought of that I hadn't, I don't know if I actually would, this would be really a bucket list thing because it would be afraid of dying, which would be a helicopter ride to the Grand Canyon, which I think you didn't do it, right? You inquired about it, but I don't think you've actually done one.
Yeah, the host wouldn't help enough and it was too expensive and the person wasn't worth it. So no, I haven't done that. I've been in a helicopter more than once. As somebody that's afraid of heights, it's not my most ideal thing in the world to do.
That's what I mean. It would be near the depth. Right. It would be a true bucket list thing for me, but I think it would be fun. I've done the main part of the Grand Canyon from Vegas, the 6-hour drive or whatever that is. It's spectacular.
So lastly, Josh, anything like casino or gambling related that you haven't done that you want to do?
I would have said Red Rock, except you and I went there a couple trips ago or whenever that was. The one place that I haven't stayed, and I've mentioned this before, that I am eager to, and with the transition to MGM might happen sooner rather than later, is Cosmo. Okay. That's a big property that I'd like to check off my list and kind of rank it compared to the others and that kind of thing. So that's my main bucket list property. Downtown, I actually would like to give Circa a try sometime to see what it's like to stay there.
Good for you.
Those are my two, and I'm sure that's on Chris's list too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to get down there. No, not really. I think I've stayed everywhere that I want to stay. So I don't have anything from that perspective. The only thing that I said was I would really like to play. Like maybe I shouldn't because it would probably cost me too much money, but I really want to play in like a high-end gaming salon. Like I've played in the Skyview Casino, whatever the heck they call it, at Resorts World on their top floor.
Yeah.
I've played up there.
It's something different now, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what they call it now, but I've played up there. I've played at all the gaming salons at Bellagio and Aria and all those things. Club Privé at Bellagio, I think is what it is. Aria, I don't know what they even call it. I've played in all those places. That's not a big deal. I'm talking about more like a more private sort of location. Like at Cosmo, they have the Talon Club, which is more, it's open to public like all these places are, but you're getting into limits that are 500 plus sort of thing. I don't want to play there for long, but like I want to play through a shoe or two at a place like that in blackjack and just see what the experience is like. What kind of drinks are they offering? What kind of food service? Because places like that, butlers will come bring you whatever food you want. So if I sit there and play, will they bring me like an awesome milkshake if that's what I ask for? I want to experience that just once. So yeah, that's kind of something I'd like to knock off. But there's no place that I haven't stayed that I want to stay.
Nothing you don't want to stay at Circus or try a lower level property just to see what you think?
Honestly, most lower level properties rule out Circus. Most lower level properties I have stayed at. I think I've stayed at every property in the Caesars portfolio. I'm almost positive I've stayed at every property in the MGM portfolio. So I mean, unless you're talking like one-offs, off strip or something like that. No, I think I've hit pretty much everything at this point.
Perfect.
Yeah, I thought so. If you guys have something that's on your bucket list, let us know about it. I'm curious to hear what our listeners haven't done that they really want to do. We'd love to give our feedback on it because there may be some awesome things you're missing out on or things that you're really excited about that are terrible. So we'll give our honest opinion.
Or knowing us as you do, if there's something that you think we should try, be sure and let us know.
Oh yeah,
I think
absolutely.
we're looking for new things to try. So
yeah, I mean, we're always looking for places to go, shows to see, just new things to talk about. Because when we have been there as much as we have, it's kind of hard to surprise us with anything at this point. So, let us know. So, Josh, you're just getting back from Zorkfest. That was in Lake Tahoe. Tell me more about it.
Well, Lake Tahoe was beautiful. We were fortunate to have just like perfect fall weather, a little chilly with the breeze coming off the lake and things like that, but kind of beautiful fall weather. So that was perfect.
Yeah, loved Lake Tahoe. It's a beautiful area. I've been there once before. It's hard to get out there for me, but Zorkfest itself, what is it, Josh?
So Zorkfest is Michael Traeger, who's the founder of Zorkfest, can do a better job than I can explaining what Zorkfest is, but Zorkfest is a travel and miles casino-focused conference. So it's kind of a blend, I would say, of people that really want to learn tips and tricks for how to use their points and miles, that kind of thing, combined with people that want to learn more about things on the casino side, how to better use comps or get comps and that kind of thing. So it blends a little bit of casino loyalty with travel and points related stuff.
Okay, that makes sense to me. So you were staying out there at what, they have 2 casino properties to stay at?
So the conference itself was at Harrah's, and Michael Traeger we were all in the Summit Suite, I think it was called, which was formerly Sammy Davis Jr.'s suite.
Ooh,
at Harrah's. Yeah, I know. It was really cool. It was a two level suite with a big fireplace in the middle, and it had been converted into, I think, a restaurant at one point and now conference space. So it was super cool. I stayed at Harvey's, which is across the main street on the lake side. So I was on the Lake Tahoe side, and you go underneath from property to property via a tunnel. So it's like the cheaper version of the walk to Wynn Encore.
So I think that's a question that a lot of listeners are going to have. You got 2 properties there. You got Harrah's and you got Harvey's. What are the big differences if people are trying to make their decision on if they want to go to Tahoe and where to stay?
Harvey's has no apostrophe before the S.
Oh, well, that would definitely make me go away. I mean, who wants to stay
Harrah's
there?
has the apostrophe. So
Good.
Big difference is that no.
I mean, that is critical. We need to put that in the show notes. That's important.
Make sure you get it right. Yeah, if you're putting this in the episode summary. No, seriously, my understanding, and I haven't been in any rooms other than I saw Michael Traeger's suite, and he was at Harrah's. Mm-hmm. And so I saw he had a big, huge suite because he was the organizer of this thing, and he had a butler service and everything like that. It was the most amazing suite I think I've ever seen. It was a little dated, as you'd expect a lot of things in Tahoe to be, but it was still a beautiful suite. I was at Harvey's, which my understanding is the rooms at Harvey's have been renovated more recently. So the rooms are a little nicer if you get a renovated room at Harvey's. And mine was beautiful. And it's also closer to the lake and has better views of the lake.
Okay, so that helps a little bit with the hotel sort of decision. Now, what about the properties themselves? Is there a big difference between the food available at each one, the gambling? Is one significantly bigger than the other?
So casino floor wise, I think Harrah's is probably bigger. It was interesting because on the gambling side, Harvey's is pretty much dead. And I mentioned this when we did a brief summary of Zorkfest on the Patreon show. Harvey's during the day, no table games open. And at night, only table games open on the weekends. So if you want to gamble, if you're staying at a Caesars property and you want to play other than slots, you have to go onto the street to Harrah's.
Now, is that something that's normally that way, or is this because there's construction going on?
No, I think it's low. I mean, maybe in the peak ski season or peak summer, lake season, they've got it open. Maybe this is slightly off season. But it was not, it was just, the tables were closed. So nothing going on, just nothing open.
Interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't
Yeah.
have known that. And I've honestly heard a lot of people talk about that location, and I've never heard anybody say that. So that's why I was curious if it was a seasonal thing.
Yeah, it might be seasonal, but it was very odd because if I wanted to play craps or play blackjack or whatever, I had to go under the tunnel and over to Harris. And like I said, it's only a 5-minute walk, so it's not that big a deal.
So it raises that question, Josh. We've talked about things like this before. Is it better to stay in a slightly nicer room at Harvey's but have to walk 5-10 minutes to get to the casino? Or would you rather be in the center of the action at Harrah's and the room not be as nice?
So in this case, my suite was so beautiful that I would rather stay where I was and have to walk over. Normally, I'd rather be closer to the action, but
So if I remember correctly, Josh, this room was set up by an independent host that may or may not have been affiliated with Harris, but they got it set up for you, and you got a suite, not a standard room, correct?
yes. So this room was set up. So working with TravelZork was a woman named Sandy, who is a host for National Casino Marketing, which, as I understand it, is a group of independent hosts that all work for Caesars or book on behalf of Caesars and can book any Caesars property all over the country for you. So she's an independent host that works for Caesars or works closely with Caesars that can book at any Caesars property. So she was the one, I don't know how Michael arranged it all, but she was the one that when I said I need a host to get me a room and things like that, he gave me her name. She did all the booking for the conference. She even arranged our reserve craps table for coffee dice, which we'll talk about. So she was very involved, actually came out and said hello and met everybody. So she set me up. Caesars doesn't like me all that much. I wasn't even diamond until this trip. So Caesars couldn't care particularly less about my action. And in telling her what I usually play, I was going to try and play at the levels we play, that kind of thing. She got me a beautiful, really out of this world suite at, like I say, at Harvey's. Incredible view of the lake, 2 bathrooms, really pretty. We don't go outside much. I sat out on my terrace and just looked at the lake and was like, I don't even have to gamble, except for I did.
Well, yeah, you did. I heard about some
Right.
of it. But was there anything special about the room worth mentioning, Josh? Anything different than suites or rooms that we've had before?
No, the room was pretty. I mean, it was nice. You could tell it had been recently renovated. No major. A lot of times Caesars starts out nice and lets them kind of go a little bit, is our experience. This didn't have that. There was nothing that I thought was falling apart a little bit or needed some maintenance. The best thing was the view. I mean, the view of the lake was just spectacular. And the room was really pretty and fairly contemporary, modern style. It wasn't a win level of design and detail and things that go into a room, but it was a really nice room. The shower and the whole bathroom also looked out onto the lake, which was also amazing. So just really, the lake made it.
Okay, good to hear. What about food, Josh? Any exciting food choices between the two properties? Did they offer room service, anything like that?
I don't know about room service. I was never inclined to even check. I know good podcast host I am. I don't know about room service, but when you go in the tunnel between Harvey's and Harrah's, there is a Cinnabon and an ice cream shop that are combined.
Ooh.
So that was an exceptional
you can get
food
your
option.
sugar fix in. Yeah, that's good.
One night after, I don't remember which night it was, I swung back and got a milkshake, and it was not a good milkshake.
Oh, it doesn't
Did
get the
not
Josh
even
stamp
finish
of
the
approval.
milkshake. Right.
So here's a question for you. Was it better or worse than the Wynn milkshake?
Oh, it was probably worse. Because I think
Wow,
with the Wynn,
that's really
yeah, I know. I think with the Wynn milkshake, I at least finished it. This one I didn't even finish. So funny food story, Chris, that I wanted to tell you. So Thursday night, the first night of the conference, I got invited to a little private dinner. So there were 8 people. It was at the steakhouse at Harrah's. Again, I keep getting Harrah's and Harvey's confused. It was the steakhouse at Harrah's. I can't remember the name of it, Chris. But so I had the usual. It was a really nice steak. I had a steak with some peppercorn sauce and a French onion soup and that kind of stuff. But the thing that made it funny, so there were 8 of us, fairly loud as a table of 8 would be. And we weren't at a circular table. We were at 3 tables put together or 4 tables put together so they could accommodate 8. So a little loud, but nobody was going crazy. I had 1 or 2 lemon drops, I think, at dinner, and a couple people split a bottle of wine. We'll have more lemon drop stories in a minute, I think. But so Chris, I even told Chris, remind me to tell him this story. So Chris doesn't know this. So we're kind of winding up dinner, It's late, but it's not that late. It was probably like 10 or something. The restaurant's pretty empty by this point. And a man comes up and he's got a leather jacket on, and he introduces himself and he said, "I hope you guys are enjoying yourself because you have been so loud. You've ruined my romantic evening."
Wow.
And he left. The funniest thing was when he go ahead.
No. I mean, what do you say when somebody says that? I mean, if it's a gambling location and alcohol's free flowing, it's an expensive steakhouse, you gotta expect stuff like that to happen, right? But you can't come over and say that to somebody.
We were all just like dumbfounded. First thing I thought when the guy came over, I thought, oh, this is somebody who recognizes some of the Zorkfest people.
Look at you with your big head. They saw a celebrity and they wanted to come say hello.
No, it wasn't anything to do with me. It was just, somebody else that was attending Zorkfest that knew Michael Traeger or knew whatever, So I just thought it was somebody coming to say, hey, see you tomorrow at the conference, something like that. And then that just caught us all. We were like, what? We didn't think we were being that loud. And so the manager of the restaurant came by and she said, you guys weren't being that loud. You were having a good time, but you weren't like raucous fraternity brothers doing, no offense to fraternity brothers, but
yeah, exactly.
It wasn't, we were just having a good time, but nobody was wild and crazy drunk or anything like that. But that was something that was like, holy cow. And then we all had a good laugh at the fact that he seemed to be by himself. So obviously we really ruined his romantic evening.
Wait, hold on. There wasn't another person with him?
Not that we saw. He stormed out of the restaurant and he was by himself.
Oh, so maybe his lady was going to come join him at the table and it was so loud and raucous there. And he said, don't come. This day is ruined. And we're going to go to White Castle or whatever's in between and grab a burger.
It was the funniest thing, Chris, because like of all the kind of passive aggressive ways to handle this.
That's one of them. Yeah.
I hope you all are having a nice evening. Yeah. I hope you all are having a nice evening because you've ruined mine.
Jeez. Wow. Well, that sounds amazing. So let's go to a happier topic, Josh. Tell me about craps. What is it like there? What kind of table minimums did you see? Anything crazy about craps in Tahoe?
So it was mostly tables, so it played almost exclusively at Harrah's, although we did go across the street one day and played for 15, 20 minutes over at Golden Nugget. So except for that time at Golden Nugget, played almost exclusively at Harrah's. And it was either $15 or $25 tables most of the time. Chris, they had both tables with the repeater and the all-tall small. The problem was, at least for me, the repeater table was the one that was open most of the time.
Okay.
So, which I don't care for as much because either you have to spend a ton to play all the numbers or you just pick a number or whatever. So I found myself not playing the features. Fortunately for the coffee dice table, when Michael and Sandy put it together, they made sure that we got the all-tall small table. So we had that for coffee dice.
I'm glad you were more comfortable in that situation.
Yeah. So a couple other things. They take the VIG up front on the 4 and 10, which sucks.
Boo.
I know. Apparently they don't. I was talking to Mark and Dr. Mike from You Can Bet on That. They had gone over to play at Bally's, and they said they don't take it up front there, which is interesting.
Yeah.
If you've never played in Tahoe and you're a craps player, hardways are off unless you call them on.
Okay.
So the opposite of Vegas. And the only other thing I can think of is the dealers are fantastic.
Oh, good.
Really, really awesome dealers all around. Nice and incredibly skilled. No mistakes, that kind of thing. I was told by a couple locals that came to the conference also that that's different than Reno because Tahoe gets more crowds and more experienced craps players and that kind of thing. That's where the better dealers go. Reno is not necessarily the case. So I don't know if that's true or not, but the dealers were fantastic.
The only thing else gambling wise that I know you mentioned to me at one point I thought that was interesting was you said they had 50-cent coins.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I put down a bet for the dealers, and sometimes I straddle the pass line like I do, and I think I forgot what the point was or something, and I had an odd number, whereas it should have been even or whatever. Okay. And next thing I know, they're paying it out, and they paid it with a 50-cent coin. So yes, nice. If you have an incorrect, quote unquote, incorrect bet, they can pay it. They can pay you 50 cents.
Well, good. So if 5 or 9 are the point, you don't have to have an even odds behind it now, huh?
Right. And that's something you definitely don't see in Vegas anymore.
No, definitely not. Okay, tell me more about your lemon drop adventures, Josh.
So I was having lemon drops every chance I could. And, I wanted this trip to be a little looser and more fun. And So one night I'm playing, let's see, what was I playing? One night I'm at the video poker bar playing video poker with Marilyn. I think Marshall was there. Our friend Eric was there. Stacy was there. There were a lot of people that were good friends of the show were there. I don't think Trey was there, although he was around a lot, and I got him drinking some lemon drops too.
Good.
And of course, I'm 2 or 3 lemon drops in playing video poker, and I was asking other people how to play this hand or that hand on video poker. Next thing you know, so Chris, you know what a sidecar is if you get a drink with a sidecar?
No.
Okay, because I didn't either until this happened. It's basically they make a lemon drop. Lemon drop comes in a martini glass, right? Usually.
Okay.
Is that right?
Sounds right.
You're supposed to say yes.
I was a bartender 17 years ago, but I do not remember.
I don't know all my glasses. Anyway, this is the bartender made too much, so they give you a second glass with the extra lemon drop.
Nice.
So that's called a sidecar. So our lemon drops all came with sidecars. Everybody was drinking lemon drops. I got everybody drinking lemon drops.
Nice work.
And I was 2 or 3 in. I'm talking to people and I'm being, gregarious and that kind of thing. And next thing I know, I spilled my lemon drop all over my video poker screen and into Marilyn's video poker screen.
Josh.
I know.
That's a party foul. You can't be doing that.
It is. So I start to clean it up, and the screen is all sticky from lemon drop, and the touch screen stops working. So I put my sidecar into the martini glass, and then before I'm even done cleaning up the first one, I spill the second one.
You needed a responsible friend like me to step in and say, okay, now's the time to drink some water and calm it down for a little bit.
So, what I got instead was lemon drops in sippy cups for the rest of them.
Do you need a straw, sir? Yes, I do.
No, they gave me lemon drops in, what do you call them, highball glasses or whatever they are, the taller, skinnier glasses.
I mean, that's just responsible drinking right there.
Absolutely. And from now on, I'm going to have my lemon drops that way. It's much easier to drink them than in a martini glass or whatever that is.
Yeah, you'll just have to make a special request.
I wasn't the only one, though, who had one person who shall remain nameless couldn't even finish attending. She was in the audience at the podcaster panel, and she had to leave because she'd had too many lemon drops.
So you mentioned the podcaster panel. Let's talk about it. I know you were part of a panel called Podcasters After Dark. Who took part in it, and anything cool come from that?
So yeah, that was, Mark and Dr. Mike from You Can Bet on That. Me from Crap Vegas, because the other half was not in attendance.
I don't know what you're talking about. I was there in spirit.
You were with me the whole time. And Karen and Tony from 360 Vegas. Our friend Danny, Vegas introvert, was the host. So he asked the questions of the panel. We took a few questions from the audience, but Michael Traeger tweeted a little clip, and I think it's on his podcast, which is called Yo 11. Might as well give him a little plug. He posted a clip of one of the questions that I answered. If not for that, I wouldn't remember a single thing that we talked about on the panel because this was the night of the lemon drop. So I was 6 or 7. I kept saying every time this came up, I'm 47 lemon drops in. I would just inflate the number, but it was 5 or 6. And then Michael got us a lemon drop during the podcaster panel itself. So his butler came in and delivered me a raspberry lemon drop during the podcaster panel.
I would say if there's anybody I know in the Vegas community that a butler seems very fitting for that person,
it's Michael.
Michael's the one. So, good for him, I guess. Josh, the only thing we did skip over briefly was the morning coffee dice session. The only thing I had heard so far from multiple people was that it was fun, but there was a lot of people and it just inherently went extremely slow because of how crazy it was.
Yeah, that was the big thing. I think we learned some lessons for next year. I think Michael's already planning Zorkfest 2024 with a coffee dice session that I'll be involved with again. And I think we learned some lessons. The first thing is it was supposed to start, let's say, at 8:30, and we had the full table. We had 16 players, so 8 and 8 on a side. I had planned where everybody was going to stand and all that kind of stuff. And I had a few special requests that I had to maneuver people around at the last minute and figure out who got to stand next to who. But everybody buying in at a table, if you think about 16 people buying in, this was a minimum $1,000 buy-in. So people buying in minimum $1,000, 16 all at the same time took forever for everybody to buy in. And again, really good crews. It wasn't the fault of the property at all. It just takes time. And the other thing is 16 people at a table, it's just going slow.
Yeah.
You can't help it with a table that is just jam-packed full. I'm not even talking about Dr. Mike's center prop action or anything crazy stuff like that. But I think we were there I stayed the whole session until we decided to call it quits, and it was 2.5, 3 hours, and the dice made it around the table 1.25 times, and it wasn't because we were having good rolls.
I mean, I'm sure it was a lot of fun. I'm sure everybody had a great time, but you know me, playing slow, that does not work for me. I become very frustrated quickly, and then I start to not have fun and want to not do that anymore. So I would probably extricate myself and move myself to another table that was open.
You wouldn't have been able to.
Going on. Now, the only question I did have, did anybody play the don't during that coffee dice session?
Nobody did, which was really
that
nice.
Would have been awesome if somebody did. I would have been cheering for that person.
Yeah, they would have made money, I think. A few things that
ultimate troll move, right?
Yeah, totally. A few things that I wanted to mention. So Marilyn, who I mentioned before, was the only woman that joined us for the coffee dice session. So that was really cool. Mm-hmm. And she actually had, I think, maybe the best roll in the whole time.
Well, of course.
And Mark and Dr. Mike were there, of course, as we mentioned. Mark got bored at one point. I think I sent Chris a picture, went back and sat at the video poker bar while we were waiting for the next thing to happen.
The last time I played with Mark, I know that he started playing on a roll to win table behind our main table because it was going too slow. So that is not out of character for him.
Yeah, he gets restless. Anyway, it was a really good time. Lots of listeners. So thank you all. Too many of you for me to even remember and name. But, particularly I spent a lot of time hanging out with Trey, who was a lot of fun. I think had a good time. Got him drinking lemon drops nonstop. Got Mark drinking lemon drops. At one point, the server came and asked if we wanted sugar on the rim of the lemon drop. And I said, of course we want sugar. This ain't no sissy drink.
Way to go. I'm glad that made you feel better.
Oh, yes. So it was a lot of fun. So thanks to everybody. I'm sorry I can't mention everybody's name, but really thought it was great seeing you and already looking forward to next year.
So let's talk about next year, Josh. Are the dates announced for next year and the location?
They are. Well, not the exact location, but Zorkfest is going to go back to Vegas. I think that Michael, we love Tahoe. I think he loved Tahoe and it was a success. But Tahoe, as you know, Chris, is so hard for a lot of people to get to.
It is.
I mean, some of the people that came from the East Coast had to fly, they're flying through Texas or they're flying through whatever, and it's a full day to get to Tahoe. So it's a lot to ask in addition to the conference itself. So it's going to be back in Vegas. I don't think Michael has picked a property yet, but it's going to be November 1st through 3rd, that first weekend in November.
And from what I understand, there's going to actually be a Crap Vegas promo code for this coming year. And if you use that, you'll get some money off of your ticket if you want to go. But we don't have all the details yet, so be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, I think right now it's just a save the date and no specifics are out, but Michael has told us that that's set in stone, so we're counting on that. And I'm already excited about it. I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed the last one 2 years ago. I enjoyed this even more. The Podcasters After Dark panel was a lot of fun. Lots of laughing, really good questions from the audience. People came up to me and said that was their best part of the conference. Of course, these are probably not the travel and miles and points people as much as the casino people, yeah. But yeah. It was a great way, I think, for people that are less into the casino scene and more into the travels and miles scene to kind of get to meet and expose to the casino side and vice versa. I'm not going to say that really was me because I didn't do a lot of the travel and miles stuff, but I think a lot of people really like both.
Well, hey, if you learned about this show because of Josh or attending that, let us know. Shoot us a message, say hi. We're glad to have you on board.
One last thing I want to say, Chris, on the slot side, because we do have a lot of slot players. I played more slots than usual this trip, even though I told myself I was going to play video poker. Mm-hmm. I found myself playing Dragon Cash, I think.
Ooh, fancy.
In the high limit room, and that was really fun. And I found Heidi. What's the Heidi with the big mug? What's that one called?
Oktoberfest.
Yes. So I found that. That was at Harvey's. So if I wanted to play Heidi's, I had to stay at Harvey's. So I played a little bit of that, not too much, but mostly Dragon Cash.
Oh, good for you. I'm glad you have a new favorite. That's good. Moving on from the piggies.
Yes. Oh, one more thing I did play a little piggies. Now that you mentioned that too, I forgot about that. I think I lost on those. There was one organized group poll as part of the official Zorkfest things you could add on and that kind of thing. But we also did a couple little informal. I think a lot of people did a little informal group polls where, like 6 or 7 of us put in $100. And so there was lots of that stuff going on. It was a really fun get together for that.
Well, good. Sounds like a great trip. Okay, it's time for listener questions. We got an email from listeners Erica and Rob. They said, hey guys, my boyfriend and I are longtime listeners, first-time emailers. Well, thank you. We both love to play slots and a little blackjack, but have summoned up the courage to consider playing at a real craps table. We are visiting Vegas next month and have a craps budget of $500 each. Where would you recommend that we play, and what type of bets would make the most sense? We plan on staying at Flamingo, but are open to any Caesars-owned property. Thank you both for everything you do. Erica and Rob.
Thanks, Erica and Rob. I hope you guys have a great time. And you said you're staying at Flamingo. That might not be a bad place. I don't know what you think, Chris, but as far as lower limit Caesars properties, you might be most likely to find a lower limit table at Flamingo. I would say that, or maybe the Link or Harrah's would be your best places to go for lower limit. As we've talked about before, earlier in the day, you're more likely to find lower limit tables.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I would stick with playing earlier in the day so the limits are lower. But even more important than that, I would try to play at a table that's fairly empty. I know that that's not great for comp purposes or anything like that, but especially if you're new, if there's not other players around, it's much easier to ask the dealer questions. They have more time to help you so that you're not slowing other players down. So if you see an empty $10 table somewhere, I would walk up and start playing there. It's probably going to be 15, knowing most Caesars properties nowadays. If you really love it and you really want to get that amazing craps vibe that can exist at a table, I would walk down to Planet Hollywood and see if they have a $15 table maybe sometime, if things are going well. But yeah, I would just focus on finding a table that's not completely jam-packed so that you're not going to slow anything down and you can ask questions when you need to.
Yep, I agree. And one thing I was going to kind of add on to that, once you're comfortable, though, the best way to have your bankroll last longer is at a table with a little more people. So only do that when you're comfortable. But when you are comfortable, look for a table that has a few more people so you can play longer.
Yeah, agree. What about bets, Josh? What would you recommend? Go 3-point Molly strategy?
Well, I was going to say, so either 3-point Molly, which for those of you that aren't too familiar with craps, again, is a line bet and then 2 come bets. And you can play odds or no odds, but that's what it is. So you have 3 numbers out there after the first 3 rolls, assuming all things being equal. The other strategy, which is fairly similar and not too much worse odds at all, would be a pass line bet and playing the 6 and 8. Very conservative, very safe play. I think either of those are good ways to have your bankroll last a while. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I think that's the way I would go. I know come bets, even though it is the same as a pass line, I think for some newer players, it can be a little confusing on how that works. So I would just lean towards having a pass line bet. And then, yeah, place the 6 and 8 or place the 6 or 8, depending on how much you really want to spend. If it's a $15 table, you could choose the 6 or 8 and have a pass line. You'd only be in for $30, $33
Right.
if you want to make it proper.
Right.
But it's a good way to start. You can kind of get a feel. You can win on more than one number. I think that's one thing that people do a lot when they're first starting, Josh. They just play a pass line and they have no numbers. Right. And I think that's got to be a little frustrating because especially if there's a really good roll going on, you're not capturing any of it unless points are being made. I would always try to get at least one other number out there, and 6 and 8 hit the most frequently. So that would be a good safe choice.
Yep, absolutely. And as Chris said, you don't even have to play proper place betting if you don't want to. If you're at a $15 table and want to place the 6 or the 8 or 6 and the 8 for $15 each, you can do that. You lose a tiny bit in value, but it's not bad.
No, your $15 bet's going to pay $17, whereas if you jumped up to $18 to bet, it would pay $21. You get that extra buck. It's not.
I knew Chris would have the exact math there.
Well, I don't have the odds if that's what you're asking.
No, but you had the payouts. I couldn't give that.
At least give you the payout. How's that? So yeah, you do lose that dollar, but it's not the end of the world for you, especially if you're a newer player. So thank you for that. Hopefully that helps a little bit, and let us know how it goes. We always love to hear about first-time player stories and how everything went.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Okay, we got an email from Alejandro. He said, "Hola, amigos. I'm a newer craps player and have seen the all tall small bet at a lot of properties. But are there other feature bets? Do you like any of the other bets better? Keep up the good work." Well, Josh just talked about the repeater a few minutes ago that he saw when he was at Tahoe. And if you aren't familiar with the repeater, there's a bet available for each number, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And you're just betting on how many times that number is going to hit before a 7 comes. The 2 and 12 have to roll twice for that bet to win. The 3 and 11 have to roll 3 times. The 4 and 10 have to roll 4 times, and so on. That can be a little bit hard for people because you either have to choose a couple numbers you want to play, or if you want to play them all, then you got to throw out 10 separate bets. So it can be a little confusing. It doesn't exactly explain things properly on the table, I think, for most people. So I would stay away from that. But Josh, any feedback on the repeater?
No, I think I said that before, and I echo what Chris said. The one thing, Chris, just to kind of explain it, one more thing I don't think you mentioned was the odds are different on each number, right? Or not each number,
Yes,
but
the payouts are completely different. Yes.
right. That's what I meant when I said odds, the payouts.
And we won't go into the full details of it. Maybe on a separate episode, we'll talk about the repeater more and give all the details on it. But it's all you're trying to do is hit the numbers numerous times.
Multiple
before
times,
seven
right.
comes. Other popular bets out there other than all, tall, small, and repeater. The fire bet, it's still around at some properties. I feel like it's the hardest to actually hit the top payout on all of them. You have to hit every one of the box numbers, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. You must establish that number as a point and make it. So you have to make 6 unique points to actually win the whole thing. There are payouts for hitting lesser, but it's good because you only have to make one bet and it can stick around for a while. It doesn't reset on a 7 on the come out, which is really big. But at the same time, Josh, I don't know. It feels like the fire bet never hits. I've hit it once in my life.
Yeah, and I've never hit a 6-point fire bet. So I echo Chris. I used to like it before the all tall small came around. It's still a fun feature bet. It's just not as exciting because it doesn't hit as often. When it does hit, if you can get in a 5 or 6 point fire, wonderful. It's fantastic, but it just doesn't hit that much. That's the beauty, quote unquote, beauty of the all tall small is that, it hits more frequently.
Yeah, it just doesn't pay as much. I mean, that's really what it comes down to at the end of the fire bet pays $1,000 for one, whereas the all tall small, you're talking about usually at the modern properties, 150 to 1. So it's not nearly as good as a payout, but it does hit a little bit more often than the other. The only thing else I think is worth mentioning, there is a sharpshooter side bet that you still see occasionally. And the sharpshooters, just like the fire bet, the only difference is it doesn't have to be unique points that you have to make. So the sharpshooter just totals up how many points did you make before you 7'd out. So you will see that out there some. There are probably, just 20 other side bets that may exist at one-off properties, modifications of these things that they created so they didn't have to pay licensing fees is all it really is.
There are even versions of the all tall small, whether or not there's the boom or bust or whatever it's called, which allows the numbers to be replaced. If you make the small, then you can start over again on the small. That kind of thing, whereas you can't on the
dice that the Hard Rock properties have that are similar but group them slightly differently. And there's a lot of variations like that. When it comes to preference, I think Josh and I both prefer the all tall small for a couple different reasons, mostly because of how frequent it does hit. I just like that bet a little bit more, but there are plenty of people that like the other bets as well.
But as word of caution, they're all high house edge bets. And so we advise you to stay away from them all.
Yes.
Even though we don't.
Just don't do what we do what we say. And you'll be safe. Final question of the week, Josh. We saw a message from Nana on the CV Facebook group. Nana said, stayed in Vegas this past Tuesday through Friday, played mainly $10 to $15 blackjack and craps. And aside for low rollers, Mirage had $10 blackjack, craps, and crapless every day and night. So that's nice for those looking for some slightly lower limits. As someone who plays basic strategy, I was dismayed by the number of people I sat with that were either splitting tens, not splitting aces, or asking me, quote, is it okay if I sit here? I don't really know how to play. I get it. They're cheap tables, so they attract more of the inexperienced players. I'm contemplating moving my play up to $25, but am a little gun shy about the bigger bankroll I'll be needing. My question is, was there a particular milestone that prompted you to play at the more higher dollar tables? And does the quality of player typically improve as you go up? My quick response is no, the quality of the player has nothing to do with the amount of money that they're betting. People take it a little bit more seriously, but sometimes that can actually be for the worse.
Yeah, Chris is more of an expert on blackjack than I am, but I know just from my own, just anecdotal blackjack playing, if I'm going to go down to Golden Gate and play some cheap blackjack, I might even do some stupid stuff just because it's cheap and, you're drinking more. And so I can see that at lower tables, how that could happen. The money is, not to say it's not significant for everybody, but for some people, they're playing because they just want to get a kick out of playing and they don't really care if they play that way. So yeah, to Chris's point, I think you're going to see bad play at every level probably, but the chances are, I would guess that the higher you go, the less you'll see that.
I don't know if that's right or not, but
I'm just kind of guessing.
I will say, if you're talking about jumping up to quarter play instead of playing with, nickels, there's some other benefits that typically come with that. At most properties, once you get to 25, some of them it's 50, but at most places, once you get to $25, it usually tells you you're going to get a 3-2 blackjack game instead of a 6-5 game. which really does make a big difference on your bankroll long term financially. And I know a lot of people don't get this, but it is far better for you to play a $25 3-2 game than it ever is to play a $15 6-5 game. You're going to lose a lot more money playing that 6-5 game long term. That doesn't mean that the variance at the beginning may not knock you out quicker. It may not give you more staying power. But if you have a bankroll large enough to do it, I would consider playing the quarter game anyways, because it's going to be a better game long term. But if you're just talking about other players, it doesn't matter where you're playing. People are going to do stupid things. You're still going to get yelled at about decisions that you make. And I just remind people, it does not matter what other people are doing or what you're doing. In the long term, even if you make a play that's against basic strategy, sometimes that play is going to help the person after you. Sometimes it's going to hurt the person after you. Long term, it's completely meaningless. You're talking about one card out of what's probably an 8-deck game. So you're talking about 400 cards. It's a minuscule effect long term. So don't worry about that. Just play the way that makes you happy. And if people are bothering you with the way that you play, just go to another table. Find another one. It does not matter. Find a place that's going to make you happy where you're going to enjoy playing.
That's what I was going to say too. Chris, what about the second part of the question? Are there any milestones that you would think of that prompted you to go to a higher level? Anything like that?
No, I don't think so. I think I got, like most gamblers, I became bored playing $10. So I jumped to 15, came bored with that. So I started playing a quarter, got bored with that, jumped to 50. And I just kind of slowly worked my way up. And honestly, though, Josh, I think I did learn slowly but surely as I was learning more about how to count cards and bankroll management. You start finding that the game that you're playing, the actual rules of the blackjack table, are far more important than what the table minimum is. So there are plenty of times where you're better off playing at a $100 table than you are at a $25 table, just depending on the rules that you're getting. I mean, if you can get a good 3-2 game, stand 17, resplit aces, surrender available on a $100 game, you're going to lose less money long term than playing at a $25 6-5 game that you find on the strip a lot. So it's just all about picking the right game that's going to give you the best chance long term.
Chris, I would say one thing as you were talking, I thought of that almost is guarantee milestone to prompt you to play more, get a line of credit.
Yeah, no, that is true. I didn't even think about that, Josh, but that's almost a guarantee. You will play heavier if you have a line of credit.
And I'm not saying that's a good thing at all. I'm just saying that
no, it's actually a horrible thing. But
right.
But that being said, no, it definitely would push you up for sure.
So thanks very much for the question.
Yeah, thanks, Nana. We appreciate the question. Hopefully that helps a little bit. Okay, patreon.com/crapvegas. Josh, all sorts of exciting stuff over there now. I know we have, usually it used to be like one post every week you'd get something from us. Now you get like 5 posts a week with different things going on. It's very active right now.
It is. And this last Patreon episode, we kind of had a hodgepodge episode where we talked about a number of different things. We talked about Zorkfest. We talked about our musical adventures with the show, which you've gotten to hear, our new musical accompaniment interlude, what would you call it, for this show.
Well, Josh, I mean, being the sound professional that I am, you know, I'd call them bumpers and stingers that you'd see
bumpers
in between.
and stingers.
That's what us music pros, you know, that's how we discuss it. But yeah, I mean, there was a lot of feedback we received after the last episode when we started experimenting with some different sounds in different places. People didn't like the choice that was made. And you know what? You were right. We didn't like it either. So we pivoted. We gave our patrons the opportunity to help us pick which ones they thought were going to be best. And here we are. You're listening to the new product. This is a Awakening 2.0, but far better.
Got to be better. Can't be worse.
That is true.
According to our listeners and Awakening's listeners.
Absolutely. So big thank you to all the new people that have signed up over the past couple weeks. That's Jeremy K, Sean W, Renee V, Josh T, Ernie V, Ishan K, Will C, Mark A, Thomas B, and Taylor T. Big thank you to all you guys. Hopefully you'll see a lot of new stuff on there that'll be kind of exciting. I know we have, Josh, if you're a sports bettor, I don't even know how to transition.
I know where you're going with this.
So if you're a sports bettor, Josh and I had this amazing idea where we were going to put out some picks every week for just our patrons. And depending on how those picks went, the patrons might be able to win a decent amount of special stuff. Some money here, maybe some gift cards here. I don't know.
Not looking good for the patrons, though.
And we said, you know, if Josh has a winning record, you'll get this. And if I have a winning record, you get this. And if we both do, you get this. Well, we've kind of tinkered with that idea over the past couple weeks, and we're now calling it the Fade Chris and Josh picks of the week. And I will say at this point, if you faded our picks every week, you would be 20-10, which is absolutely amazing from a sports betting perspective. And I'll go a step further. If you fade just Josh's NFL picks, you would probably be a millionaire by now.
So yes, I am very successful in my college picks so far.
1-0.
I am 1-0 in my college picks. But anyway, we're having a lot of fun over on Patreon. Thanks, as always, to our new patrons, our existing patrons. If you want to hear us every week, you get the regular show once every 2 weeks, and you get Patreon once every 2 weeks on opposite weeks. So that's the best way to get to listen to more of us.
Oh, and Josh, we also teased a really exciting project that we have coming up in the near future that I think people are going to love, but I can't talk about on here.
That's right. Super secret.
Yep. And people always ask about the survival pool if you don't get those updates, as I call it. We are down to 32 entries left after week 7, and there are only 7 players left that haven't used a mulligan. And Josh, guess who one of those people is?
Not me.
It is me. I still have not used a mulligan yet. I am a horrible football picker, but somehow I'm doing okay on this thing, so good for me.
I am still alive in Tim from the Better Lives survivor pool, which is good. And I had picked Cleveland this past week. Cleveland won 39-38 over the Colts. And so that was a nail biter. On the other hand, I had also picked for our sports betting, I had also picked the under of 40.5 for the Cleveland Indianapolis game
combined,
which was 39-38.
You were so
almost
close.
hit the under. I was this close.
Nice.
Missed
Way
it
to
by
go, Josh.
this much.
Upcoming trips. Josh, do you have anything officially scheduled at this point?
I have a trip scheduled for midweek, and I'm not going to say the dates yet. I want to make sure that all gets nailed down and things like that. But I do have a little midweek Vegas trip scheduled to stay at Wynn and make it to black, because I'm that close to making it back to black status at Wynn.
Ooh, can we put a back to black musical track in there when you say that?
We need to.
Absolutely.
And our host is going to get me a Wynn Tower Salon Suite room.
Wow.
Which is like 1,800 square feet. And I'm super excited about that.
I'm sure that was not volunteered without request, but
no, I requested it.
I'm very excited for you. I can't wait to hear your feedback, because this will be a remodeled salon suite.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
I'm super excited about it. I've never stayed in one before.
Ooh,
so
maybe
really
we'll put a video of it on our YouTube page that we haven't used in the past 6 months or a year or whatever it is.
I was going to say TikTok, Chris.
Oh, TikTok. I like that too. I haven't made one of those either. I keep falling behind. And for my trips, I don't know when they're going to be yet. I can tell you this. If you're there in December on a weekend, there's a good chance you'll probably see me. It's probably the way that this will go, but I don't have anything locked down yet. We have recently been reminding everyone to leave a positive review on their favorite podcasting app, and I did want to thank a couple individuals who left reviews recently, Josh. That is Red318IS. I don't know how to say that any shorter than that. Maybe Red318 is, maybe. And much easier.
Sure.
Much easier is
it's a given name.
Yeah, Crap Daddy 111. Both left nice 5-star reviews this week. Red's review said, Crap Vegas is first and foremost a Vegas podcast. Chris and Josh know more about and travel to Vegas more than most Vegas podcasters. Craps is their primary game, but even if Craps isn't your primary game, this is still a must listen for anyone looking for Vegas content. Thank you. We appreciate that. We try to go outside the box every once in a while to keep people entertained, but yeah, we always appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, thanks so much, Red. And I haven't told this to Chris, but sometimes we talk about, what we want to cover on the show, and we're Crap Vegas, and does it have to be craps related or Vegas related? That kind of thing. And I kind of think of it as, you remember 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon?
Yes.
We're like 7 degrees of Crap Vegas. So I figure anything that is within 7 degrees of Vegas or craps is fair game for the show.
Yeah, I feel like we can make the connection. Just give us a couple steps, but we'll get there.
So I dare you, give us something, we'll talk about it. And if we can make the connection to Vegas or craps.
Especially if it's some sort of old celebrity. Josh loves that. He can talk about Bruce Boxleitner and all these people, and now they were on the show in the 50s.
Oh, we know the connection to Vegas there. You're gambling. Yeah.
Easy. We're sold out of 2XL Coffee Dice hoodies, unfortunately, Josh, to the dismay of a few people that ordered it the same day, and I'm now out and I can't fulfill their order. But if you have any other size than 2XL, I have a few left in my closet. Get those orders in before it gets cold, and we'll still have some. Any of those purchases can be made at crapvegas.com/shop. Anything else you want to talk about before we get out of here, Josh?
The one thing I was going to say, Chris, so we were playing coffee dice at Zorkfest, and Mark Duvall from You Can Bet on That is kind of right across from me on the table. And every bet he makes, he said, I'm playing the jack numbers.
Good. 6 and 8, huh?
Actually, no, he's making come bets. I think he said he was playing the jack method.
Oh, well, I just
So
call that
he was doing
boring
come
craps
bets.
is what we call that.
Yeah. The best part was, so Mark was playing the come bets most of the time, and a 6 would roll, so his come bet would go up to a 6. And of course, all the rest of us have place bets. And so every time it happened, I would say, did you get paid on that one, Mark?
Well, Josh, if you're a come better, you have to hit the number twice to get paid.
You do. That's what they say. You
Why
have to
do
hit the
people
number
do
twice.
that? That's silly.
Sorry for all you people that don't care about craps in this last section.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay. If that's all you got, Josh, thank you all for listening, and we will talk to you soon.
Thanks again, everybody. Bye-bye.
Vegas, here we come.
Thanks for listening to the Crap Vegas podcast.
Have you ever been to Vegas?
Check out all our recent news and our Vegas trip calendar by visiting crapvegas.com.
See you in Vegas.
I found out something very unsettling about Harry. Gambles. What do you mean he gambles? He plays craps in the back room of a private club. I mean, you 11, come on, little Joe, Snake Eyes, hard way 8. But how it goes. He loses a lot of money. You had no idea? No, I didn't.
Tell people how to get a hold of us, Chris.
I'm scrolling. Well, we're gonna have a musical interlude in between, so we don't even have to say it.
When does the musical interlude come?
Whenever you put it in.
I know, but does it come now or does it come after you tell people how to get hold of us?
Before.
Okay.
Okay. So
Musical interlude.
oh my God.